That supreme entity is referred to here first as Om, that is his own name, so to say, which is quite comprehensive in nature. And also there are three more additional names, namely Bhu, Bhuva, and Swaha. Bhu is that he brings all of us and the whole universe into existence. Bhu Sattayam. Satta means existence. So if anything exists, we have the first question, who brought it into existence? So he is the supreme being, consciousness. So that has made the whole universe, including giving birth to all of us. And of course, we also make many things, but we usually make things starting with something, whatever is our starting point, the raw material. Like a carpenter makes a desk out of wood, then that wood was made by that supreme being whom we will call as Ishwar for time being. Bhuva means, as far as we, of course, the world is with we human beings and animals and birds and all who are conscious beings. And also there is a whole lot of things in the universe that lack consciousness. So Bhu was referring to both the part of the world, conscious as well as that lack consciousness. And when it comes to conscious beings, we go through fluctuations of joy and pain in our life, is it not? So we all instinctively want to get away from anything that is painful. And even though we do our best, yet somehow the pain strikes us. So Bhuva is that supreme being who has ability to remove our pain. Like for a child, his mother and father change the situation and take away pain of the child. And Swa is Sukh Swarup in the sense, if we are away from pain, then we want to be something that is pleasant to us, joy, happiness, whatever you call it. So that is his Swa, Sukha Swarup. If I am connected to him, that is what his meditation is all about. Then I am away from any pain and I am in a pleasant condition. A glimpse of that we taste in deep, dreamless sleep. That is something as default, we all got it, at least in our childhood. When we grew up, maybe it's once in a while. And whenever we are in deep, dreamless sleep, what is called sushupti, we are away from pain as well as we feel very good. When we emerge out of it, we say that was wonderful. And the precondition of that sushupti is that my mind is non-functional, thoroughly inactive. So that's why that kind of motivates me in the daytime to bring my mind calm. Then maybe I will have real-time taste of that pleasure, which is very special pleasure. It's called Ananda, and he is infinite reservoir of that. That's why his name is Swa. Now I'm going to have some question here.
Yeah, looks like we keep losing
When you write a question, you can send it to me, what is called privately, or you can make it open to all. So there are two questions here. They have come to me privately, so you may not be able to read it. One says, when I describe the three-in-one principles about the existence of things that come into existence in the universe. So this this term three-in-one is in some of my articles and books. So maybe he has read it. That's why he has used this term. So I will try to explain it. I just now mentioned like a carpenter makes this desk out of wood for it. So suppose I enter into a hall or in a room and I see a desk for the first time. Suppose we are all familiar with this thing. We enter into a new setting and we see a wooden desk. One that is called in our Nyaya Darshan, which is philosophy of logic, it is an effect. The Sanskrit term is kayan and kaya. Kaya here is not what is that kayala, the work, it is an effect, and kayan is the cause. So something which was not existent forever, and one particular time it comes into existence, then we say it is an effect. And then naturally there is an inquiry, what was its cause? How did it come into existence? That any scientist is always doing it. If some event is taking place, is ongoing, or it has already taken place, like an apple has fallen on the ground, or a scientist sees that apple is falling on the ground, whatever it is, that is an event, and then he asks, what is the cause of it? That leads him to, in physics, what we call the gravitational law of the force. Towards the center of the earth is pulling everything. And that gives rise to anything we throw up, finally it begins to fall down. So coming back to this wooden desk, this is a scientific inquiry. How did it come into existence? And we use it every moment, in our day-to-day functioning. So here we know from our experience that it couldn't have been come into existence by itself. A human being has made it. We give a name to a particular human being. We say a carpenter. Though I didn't see the carpenter making that particular desk, is it not? But I talk as if I am 100% confident. And I say, there has to be a human being who must have made it, is it not? So there is a cause of that effect, namely a human being, and just for our purpose, give him a name, a carpenter. But then we know it, a carpenter sitting alone in his workshop, he cannot make desk just out of nothing. So he has to have some pieces of wood or a log of wood and make some pieces out of it. And then he transforms that into wooden desk, is it not? So we say there is not one cause, there is another cause, namely a wood or pieces of wood. So then we modify our statement. We say that a carpenter made this desk out of pieces of wood. Now we say that, but why would he make it? Nobody makes it something just for the fun of it. There has to be some motivation in his mind, something in his mind. So then we say that, okay, the owner of this house placed an order. He placed an order to the carpenter that, look, I want such a such desk. And then carpenter gets going and then he assembles the pieces and does a lot of labor. And then he delivers the desk to that carpenter, the beneficiary. So basically, and then this is also not total story. A carpenter, somebody will say, has to have certain essential tools. He has to act upon that wood using his hands, feet, and all that, and certain tools. So he has to act upon it, and not just merely his hands. He needs certain tools. He needs some space and time and many things. Somebody can list it. But when the question was asked about three in one principle, we are going to discuss these three things, namely the carpenter, the wood, and the end user, who is the beneficiary. Is it not? They have a name. The carpenter is called as nimitta karan, or in English we say efficient cause or agental cause. The wood is called as material cause. In Sanskrit term is upadan karan. Then this beneficiary, the who is going to use it, he is the end user, is it not? And here we notice there is some correlation. The correlation comes from, in our view, that is the Vedic perspective. In Vedic perspective, there are two kinds of things in the universe. The things are made of matter and they don't have consciousness, like this wooden desk. Even though I hit it, it doesn't make any complaint. But if somebody hits me, I will feel the pain and I won't like it, because I am conscious being and the desk is void of consciousness, is it not? So in Vedic terminology, consciousness is an attribute of some entity which is non-physical, non-material, is it not? Because from the Vedic philosopher's point of view, so many material things, infinite things around us, they lack consciousness. They don't exhibit consciousness. So they make a very axiomatic statement that matter does not possess consciousness. So consciousness must be inherent attribute of something which is non-material. So that is called as anilam. It is non-material. It doesn't have any matter. So think of us as we have something, a point-like entity, which is like this light is giving physical light. That thing is emitting light of consciousness. So I can wave my hands, I can speak and do all sorts of things, is it not? So now coming to that consciousness, it has three powers, extraordinary powers. That is called as ability to know, and ability to experience an event, and ability to act upon its surroundings. That is called as jnana, bhog, and karma. But of course, it has these three powers, yet it cannot exhibit these powers without the instruments of body and mind, is it not? So you know it, we are always engaged in these functions, at least when we are awake, getting to know surroundings, where we are through our five senses, and then feel them. That takes us through a wide spectrum of joy and pain, or sometimes we are just inert, but we can feel the thing, is it not? If my daughter walks into this room, I will feel good, is it not? So we just not get to know. I just don't see her. A camera could also see her, but I have a feeling, is it not? And I get to know her. Camera can merely put an image of it, but is not quite a knower, is it not? Like a book has all the words. This is a book in my hand. It has all the words, and those words have knowledge. But nobody will say the book has the knowledge, is it not? If I read the book, I gain knowledge, is it not? So my ability to know, my ability to feel and experience, and then I act upon my surroundings, usually to get away from pain, and if possible, go towards pleasures of life, is it not? So these are my three extraordinary powers, and I use my body and mind in exercise of these powers. Now coming back to these three causes, carpenter has to be a conscious being because he has to have a blueprint, a design in his mind, what he is planning to make, a wooden desk, is it not? So he has to be an intelligent human being with knowledge. So, of course, this agental cause, the efficient cause, is always a conscious being, and not merely with the knowledge, he also has the ability to act upon wood. So, he has knowledge and action both, is it not? So, it has to be a conscious being. The material cause is matter, wood is void of consciousness, and the beneficiary always has to be a conscious being because he can enjoy that desk, is it not? He will feel good when he uses that desk, is it not? So we have seen there behind any effect, man-made world at least, that is what a desk is representing, there have to be three causes minimum plus some additional ordinary causes like tools and space and time. They are nevertheless present in all cases. But the peculiar causes are the efficient cause who has to be a intelligent human being who has the knowledge and action. Then there has to be material cause and there has to be an end user who is also a conscious being. So sometimes when the carpenter makes a chair for himself, or a bird for that example makes a nest for itself, is it not? But nevertheless, bird is an efficient cause of that particular nest, and bird itself is the end user. A carpenter may make a dog house out of wood, is it not? Where the end user is a dog who is also an intelligent and a conscious being. So this is what Vedic rishis noticed, and then they formulated, then they extended this inquiry, like in any scientific thing. Certain things are out of our beyond, like how did this sun or earth come into existence? Of course, it all happened before we came in this world, is it not? So the Vedic rishi is then trying to make a scientific inquiry about the natural world, the earth, the sun, the moon, the galaxies, and the plants and trees and air and water, rivers and mountains, all that exists, which we are very confident human beings are not capable of making. So then he extrapolates this, what he learns from the man-made objects, he extrapolates it to the natural world because that's only he can do it. He has nothing better than that. Then he says that this universe as a whole is made for our benefit. So we are end user, not only we human beings, but animals, birds, fishes, all the marine species, all that. And the carpenter, like the maker of the world, has to be a conscious being, and that he gives a name, say Ishwar. And then he says, him, Ishwar must have made out of something. He cannot make it out of nothing. Otherwise, this visible world couldn't be there. So that thing is called as matter in its very, very fundamental primary state. That has a technical term is Prakriti, but in Vedic terminology it has other names like Arnava, Swadha, Maya. There are many more names in the Vedas, but all this means a, a kind of an ocean of matter, but that is not quite in a particulate form. It is just an ocean which is spread over everywhere. So this gives rise to three primary entities, namely Ishwar, the maker of the universe, who has the intelligence, design in his mind, who is also the source of all the knowledge, and who has the ability to act upon matter and make all sorts of things. And matter works under the overall authority of Ishwar. Prakriti works like that and submits to itself. Of course, then it is governed by the natural laws of physics, and he is the governing principle, that Ishwar, because he has the knowledge what is the right laws for the matter to behave. The gravitational law, nuclear forces, all that. He is kind of lawmaker and also maker of the universe so that it is sustained. It's just he doesn't make it and gets away. He continues to operate it in a particular manner so that the earth is going around the sun. There is a day and night in 24 hours. 12 months have all kinds of seasons and things like that. We are all familiar with it. And then it is for all of us, animals, other species, all included. So we are like end user, is it not? So that three entities in that case of wooden desk was carpenter made the desk out of wood for an end user. Now it becomes Ishwar makes the whole universe out of Prakriti matter for all the conscious beings. And so that is also, we will say, is a conjecture, at best a hypothesis. In strict scientific term, we cannot say it is definitely that way, is it not? So that is what is आर्य समाज प्रिंसिपल नंबर 1 is saying, सब सत्य विद्या और जो पदार्थ विद्या से जाने जाते हैं उन सब का आदि मूल परमेश्वर. Means that entity Parameshwar is the original source of all the knowledge and all the things that is there. The knowledge is nothing but how a particular things behave, is it not? Like a cloud, the whole cloud physics is nothing but behavior, formation of clouds, its other behavioral pattern, and also how it water gets condensed and then how it falls down, is it not? So this is all according to the design of that Ishwar. So the whole knowledge related to the clouds, which is scientists are trying to discover and explore, is nothing but that has come from Ishwar. So Ishwar has the knowledge, like carpenter had the knowledge, then only he made the desk accordingly. So Ishwar is the source of, that's what we say, Om Mitancha Satyancha Vidha Tapaso Adhyajayate, isn't it? So the universe is Satya, it is following certain ground principles which are Hit, and Ishwar makes it out of his knowledge, that is called Iddha, and action what he does is called Tapas. So Iddha and Tapas are knowledge and action of that Ishwar, because his action is very unusual. He is not like carpenter. Carpenter has to use his hands to fetch a piece of wood. But Ishwar is everywhere, so he doesn't need a hand, he doesn't need any tools. He is within a big particles. So he just has to, he just has to push the particle from inside. He doesn't apply force from outside. That's why he has another name, Vishwa. He is sitting inside everything. So then finally we have second principle of Arya Samaj, Ishwar Sachidanand Swarup, and there are many 20 plus attributes of his, but it ends with उसी की उपासना करनी योग्य है. So that is what is the evidence of that Ishwar, So in first and second principle, there is conjecture has been made. And that first principle is more about, this is Parameshwar. Parameshwar is one who is there even when universe is not there, is it not? So Param is beyond, is it not? And then in second principle, Dayanand uses the term Ishwar. Ishwar is called as Shabal Brahm. Shabal Brahm means, Parameshwar is Par Brahm, an entity who is there whether universe is there or not, because he is always there. The suburban is when I see the world, oh, the clouds give me filtered in. So I say, Ishwar must be very wonderful. He gives me, I pollute all kinds of water, but he gives me back clean filtered water. So I see some events in the universe and I make a conjecture that Ishwar must be like this. So when I see something happening in the universe, and make a inference that Ishwar must be Nayaka, Ishwar is everywhere. If he was visible, then I couldn't see other things, so he must be Nayaka. So these are inferences, is it not? And these inferences are being made from the visible world, and then it is Ishwar. So this is a very semantics. Parmeshwar is a very subtle entity. Ishwar is Parmeshwar in action, so to say. Is that okay? And then Dayanand is making a lot of attributes of Ishwar, but all these are inferences, is it not? These are called Anuman Pramana. Anuman is inference, which is not 100% equal to Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is direct perception, is it not? So, like I may say, I see this soot behind a hill, so I say there must be a fire. That is a reasonable inference because there can be, but somebody at the end of the day will say, what is the direct evidence? Is it not? So, direct evidence is one who is on the other side of the hill. He can see the fire. I am on the other side. I can just make a inference, but inference is always weaker than direct because I have no idea how big are the flames, what is the area the fire is spread over. One who is having direct perception, he has the full knowledge about it. So Anuman Pramad is called as only Samanya, general characteristics. I cannot know the specifics of it, is it not? So Pratyaksha is very powerful. That takes me to the specifics. So that is what Dayanand is then saying at the end. उसी की उपासना करने योग्य है. So when I am direct with him, like a child in his mother's lap, then I get a direct evidence that yes, this is what he is. So, so the question was, what is three in one principle in the Vedic semantics? So Vedic semantics is saying that if the universe exists, there has to be Ishwar, there has to be Prakriti, and there has to be these three things. All the things are originating from these causes, but these three things themselves are causeless. They cannot be treated as an effect. You will see it. If one is missing, then the world cannot come into existence. If Ishwar is not there, there's no story. If the Prakriti is not there, like wood is not there, then how can carpenter make the desk? If the end user is not there, why should Ishwar make it? Is it not? So these three things have to be there at the start. And if somebody insists, no, who made Ishwar? Then we have to imagine, okay, there was a Super Ishwar. But then somebody will say, who made Super Ishwar? So, this is ad infinitum. There is no new knowledge gained, and it just goes on, is it not? So, Vedic philosophy is very, says these are three entities at the starting point. They are themselves without any cause, they just exist. And then the whole thing starts rolling. The whole universe comes into existence. Then there's a whole lot of other philosophies. So this was in brief, Vedic philosophy of creation, so to say. If there is any question on this.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question, Harishchandraji.
Yes.
Yeah, no, Pari Bhade, namaste. Yeah. this is regarding Antakaran Chatushtya, the foursome, internal foursome, Antakaran Chatushtya. So the question is, looks like all the actions are done through the Antakaran Chatushtya. What does Atma do other than facing the consequences, feeling the pain and joy? So looks like there is no part that Atma plays. All the functions are done by only the Chatushtya, Antakarana Chatushtya.
Okay. Okay, for the benefit of all our others, the participants, the just this term may be new to some of you, uh, so-called Antakaran Chatushtay. This is as I said, as a human being, we have three extraordinary powers, but we need the instruments of body and mind to exercise those powers. So when it comes to our instruments, we have basically two instruments. One is this body, and other is a subtle instrument that is called as mind. Now, mind has a detailed in Vedic terminology, so we will not go into detail at this point because the focus of the question is something else, and that itself is a big topic. If somebody is
Sure.
interested in, we can take it up in some other session. At this point, body is called as Bahya Karana, outer instrument, and the mind is called as Antahkarana, inner instrument, because that is subtle. But please bear in mind, in today's mainstream terminology, our brain is considered as mind as well as our, you know, our, so to say, our consciousness, is it not? If something is happening in my brain, the doctor will say, I am conscious at this time. So the mainstream terminology is slightly different. In Vedic terminology, within my brain, very deep inside, somewhere in the cortex, there is a very small cave that is called as Hridaya or Hridayakash. So in that tiny cave, myself, my Atma Tattva is residing. And that closest to it is an envelope of mind. At this point, we will not go more into detail of that mind. You know, that mind only the questioner has asked. He has referred to my mind as Antakaran Chatushtay. This terminology can be discussed in detail at some other time. At this point, the question is, if the owner of the mind, the self, the Atma, so to say, also is called as Purusha. So in our philosophy, that owner, like me, is Purush. Purush, not to be confused with in Hindi, Purush will mean male human being. But here, Purush is that consciousness, that Atma Tattva, which all of us have our own, is it not? So the question here was, if there is any, we know the so-called law of karma. Of course, the whole natural world is governed by the laws of physics, but we all, human beings, animals, birds, our atmas, why was I born in a particular family on a particular date and time? That supreme manager is governing all of us in accordance with the law of karma. Is that okay? So material world is governed by the law of physics and all the natural laws, whereas we all beings are governed by the law of karma. And in common man language, we know it, what you reap, you sow. So what goes around comes around, is it not? So but in Vedic terminology, this is stated as all my good action, and that good action there is a term for that. It's called dharma. Dharma here does not mean religion. Dharma is what is treated as universally acceptable action. If I steal somebody money, universally it will not be regarded as a right conduct, is it not? Then that is adharma. If I help a needy, if there is an injured person on a street, I take him to a hospital, whole world will say that was the right thing to do. So that was dharma. So dharma here is not, what is in the religions, etc. Dharma is universal, acceptable code of conduct, something like that. So if I do dharma, then I will be rewarded in terms of sukha. Sukha means joy and pleasure and happiness, whatever you call it. And if I do something which is contrary to dharma, in other words, if that is adharma, then I will be going through something which is painful. Now, this is the broad statement of law of karma. But there are a lot of details because the rewards of karma does not come instantaneously, not always. There is a lot of time gap. Hmm? So, law of karma, we are told, is kind of in physics, there is a Heisenberg's principle of uncertainty that says that either you can measure the mass of a particle or its momentum, not both at the same time, is it not? So that is a universal statement that either we know this or that. We cannot know both the things. So in a scientific community, both the things cannot be knowable together, is it not? In the same manner, from Vedic scientist point of view, law of karma is undecipherable, unknowable for us in total sense. Why? In total sense, in the sense, today if I am inflicted with some pain, there is nobody in the world who can say for what particular action I am getting this reward, you know, particularly because certain rewards come after, maybe that is coming due to the previous life, or maybe due to the thousands of life ago, I
Yes.
might have gathered something which is giving me reward now, is it not? So in that sense, Sankhya makes a statement, Shrishti Vachityat. It's such a wondrous world where all kinds of things are happening to all of us, but we cannot exactly know what is the cause of what I am going through, is it not? Today's my pleasure or today's my pain is due to what cause, what was the action I did in some life. Nobody in the world can ever know it. So this is theoretically unknowable. But it does not mean there is no law of karma.
Where is
There
he?
is a law of karma, but I cannot know exactly this. Now the question was, this is all peripheral things. The question was, the Purush, the owner of mind, has is being rewarded for an action, whereas the action was performed not by him, but by his mind. Is it not? So the
Mhm.
question was, when my mind and body are doing the certain action, why am I held responsible? Why am I held accountable? Why I have to go through the rewards of it, pleasure or pain, whatever it is? The answer is very simple. In day-to-day world, if I hit somebody, if I shoot somebody with a gun, the court will not give punishment to the gun. Court will punish the person who has fired the gun, is it not? So he will say, the judge will say that you had full control over the functioning of the gun, you pressed the trigger, so you are held accountable. So this logic has to go inward. So the questioner's question is valid, but even here, the Vedic rishis give an answer. They say, because after all, the Atma is considered as Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta. That is aparinami. It doesn't go through any change whatsoever. Just like I don't go through much change when I press the trigger of a gun, is it not? But anyway, I have caused an event for which, of course, I am must be held responsible. So, in the same manner, they give an analogy that is the best answer available in the Vedic literature. The this is a matter. Law of karma has been discussed by Patanjali in philosophy of Yoga Darshan. In second chapter, there are 4 or 5 statements. They come together, and there the commentary comes from Vyas, and he says his response is he raises the same question, and then he says, like in the world, the victory and defeat in a battleground is gained by the soldiers, but the same thing, namely the victory and defeat, is treated as that of the king. So the soldiers are affiliated with a particular king, they are obeying the commands of the king, and in a battleground, the soldiers are victorious or they are defeated. That same is attributed to that of the king, though he was not in the battleground, he is probably in his palace, is it not? The same thing applies to the Purush here. He is, but his command is followed by his mind, and so he is held accountable. So that is the answer to this question.
So is the Purusha giving the commands, or just or the intellect, Buddhi is giving the commands?
Actually, the Purush is giving the command. His Buddhi is more like his prime minister who is advising him, who is opening out all the options and what will be the consequences. Finally, using his intellectual faculty, he is selecting the option which he thinks is most suitable at that time. So, he gives the command, like the king gave the command to his forces, and he, of course, consulted his prime minister at that time. I will take up a question which is here privately in writing. Can you please, this is from a gentleman, I don't want to read out the names because this session is being recorded. Some of you may not like your names to be, so I am not speaking out the name. The question is, can you please put some light on the sequence of universe creation as given in Veda? So, well, interesting question. We have taken up this subject in detail when we were discussing 3-in-1 principle. If you are familiar with Sandhya mantras, those 3 mantras called Agmashan mantras, they are the last sukta of Rig Veda is Sangathan Sukta, and the one just before that has these 3 mantras, namely Tan Satyancha Vidyat Tapaso, then Samudradanavada Dadi Samvatsaro Vajayata, then it is Suya Chandra Masaudhata Yatha Purvam Kalpaya. These 3 mantras, in a very concise form, are giving the describing the philosophy of creation. But in more detail, it is covered in Rig Veda. There is a Nasadi Sukta, and of course, there are many other parts of the Vedic literature. But let's look at these 3 mantras. The first one, which I have partly used already, which is just saying, ab initio, before the world comes into existence, tatah samudro anava, there is an infinite ocean. That ocean is called as samudra arnav, as if there is a homogeneous matter. And it doesn't get transformed by itself. There is a maker of it, intelligent, and he gives rise to the world, which is called as Satya, and the world functions according to certain underlying ground principles that is called as Hit. And that comes into existence because that supreme consciousness has the necessary knowledge, Idha, and also has the authority and power to act upon the matter, that is tapas. So in the first statement, it says that the matter is there, which is in a homogeneous form. Like imagine you are deep in Pacific Ocean, it's everything quiet, no movement, nothing is happening. Water is also calm, and anywhere you see, it's all the same, is it not? So just imagine that kind of a thing. The whole universe is like that. And then, of course, that supreme being is there. Then what does he do next? Then he says, time is created. Samvatsaro ajayata. So samudrad anavad adhi samvat. Adhi is he has authority. Adhinayak. Adhi means who has an authority. Ajayata is to make, to give rise to. Samudrad Arnavad. So that Samudra of that Arnav, Samudrad Arnavad Adhyat Samudrad
Adi.
Arnavad Adi Samvatsaro Ajayat. Samvatsar means time is. So very first thing he makes is, and that time gives rise to Ahoratrani Vidadat Samvat Vidadat Mishato Vashi. What is he saying is that time to us looks like day and night, seasons and all months and years, whatever it is in our day-to-day functioning. So that time parameter is born, and you know it. If nothing moves, there is no time. Say, we discussed slightly about Sushupti, deep, dreamless sleep. When there is nothing happening in my mind, no dreams also. When you come out of that dreamless sleep, you have no idea of time. You have no idea you were in sleep for 2 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours, because you were in a world where time didn't exist. So, as far as you are concerned, you were in a world where time did not exist. Because what is our world? Seemingly, we live in this world, is it not? But actually, our world is what just now we discussed is the mind and antakaran and all. So within the mind, the closest to us is called buddhi. Hmm? Now, if there is nothing happening in the buddhi, so we are always watching that buddhi. So you can look at it as that inner TV. So seemingly I am seeing this laptop screen, but actually I am watching a screen somewhere hidden here in my that tiny cave. So the in my tiny cave, me, the Purush, is watching a tiny screen. That is my buddhi, is it not? So in the daytime, in the evening, even when with my eyes closed, I may have something there. And even as I go to sleep, I am dreaming. My dreams are also coming there. And if I know how to switch it off, or if I have a good luck, deep sleep, no dreams, then that inner TV is really off, is it not? So in this particular situation, when as far as I am concerned, from a subjective point of view, if there is my mind is calm and quiet, nothing happening in my mind, there is no time, is it not? So time is always corresponding to movement. If there is movement, something is moving. And of course, in the world, we have a concept of time because the earth is moving and we have put our atomic clocks, corresponding to this earth movement. You might be aware some 3 years, 4 years ago, all the top physicists, they decided to set our atomic clock 1 second behind. They adjusted. All the world's clocks were adjusted by 1 second so that they are in sync with the Earth's movement. So, Earth is moving at 100,000 kilometers per hour, such a gigantic ball, 7,000 kilometers or so diameter, and is running at such a huge speed, but it covers the entire orbit in a very precise time that modern atomic clocks have to be adjusted accordingly. So this is time is commensurate to movement. So when the Arnav is there, that Samudra Arnav, there is nothing moving, there is no time. So how is time created? That supreme being excite some particle somewhere, so that at one location there is some movement, is it not? Now that becomes the reference point, and that also becomes start of the parameter that we know as time. Prior to that, there was no time. So time gets created very first thing at the start of the whole universe to be in making. And then, of course, he starts movement in so many, so many locations, so many particles. Galaxies are made, solar system, and all. That is what is described in the next Surya Chandra Masaudhata. So then the space parameter is made. So and then I have already covered. He is intelligent, he is conscious being, and he has the knowledge, and all that knowledge that we gain is nothing but we don't invent knowledge, we discover knowledge. So knowledge is he is the original source of knowledge. That's what Patanjali is saying. Savajyat bijam. So purvesham api guru kalenan vachedat. So Ishwa is all-knowing because he is only the source of knowledge. And then he doesn't gain it from others. He doesn't have a teacher. He is inherently the knowledge. So Sarvajyatu Bijam, as if he has the seed of the knowledge. So in brief, I will say the philosophy of creation. I like it. There are a lot of questions, but now we are nearing. I didn't mention it, but of course, we are here for about an hour. So now they are, let me see if this question I have covered some light on the sequence of universe creation. And the Purush Adhyaya is very interesting. Purush Adhyaya goes for, once the sun and the earth, now the species, now animals, now the human beings are made, now the Vedas, and so that gives an interesting sequence in philosophy of creation. If we have time some other day, so we can. Now there is another short question. I think this was coming much earlier, about half an hour ago. What is the fastest way to get moksha? Moksha is, of course, is the Sankhya has a statement, interesting statement. Sushupti samadhi moksheshu brahmarupta. Very interesting statement, saying that there are three states of ours. Sushupti is, I have already discussed, deep dreamless sleep. Then samadhi, which is a deep state of meditation. And moksha, of course, the questioner knows it. So sushupti is like we all get it by default, and if we spoil our life, even that is out of our control, is it not? So even that is snatched away. So if your lifestyle is not good, then you have sleepless night, and even if you have sleep, lot of dreams. So if you want to lead a Vedic way of life, you have to continuously be deserving for deep dreamless sleep. And then next thing is samadhi, which is, as I said, the replica of sushupti. In the daytime, now we are not lying down, we are on sitting posture, but we create our mind as it was in sushupti. Calm mind, no activity at all. That's what Patanjali describes as chitta vritti nirodha, is it not? And that what we call as mind is called here chitta. So why it has two names, maybe some other time. So when there is nothing happening there, as in deep dreamless sleep, of course it's difficult. That's why Patanjali is writing all the steps, how you should do it. So if I am able to do that, then I am in samadhi. Then I come out of it and I say, that was wonderful. So that is a good test. If your meditation is good, you must be in a state where you feel that is good, is it not? So it is slightly different from the usual joy and pleasures of life, because it is something like universal pleasure, is it not? So that is samadhi. Now, if you are good in this samadhi, and if you are going deeper and deeper, there are some more stages of samadhi. There is a spectrum of samadhi. And but I know even as a beginner, you will know it. When you come out of samadhi, you know this. If you are good in meditation, if you let's look at this deep, dreamless sleep. If you have good sleep, you get relaxed, but your personality doesn't change much. If you are a person A, you emerge out as same person A. Though, of course, you are more relaxed, you are feeling light, but your personality hasn't undergone any substantial change. In Samadhi, some of you, if you are good practicing meditation, deep in meditation, as you will see, you don't have to go to Samadhi state. Even prior to that, you will begin to feel, I am changing slightly. My behavior is changing. Or your wife will say, now you get less angry. Something like that, isn't it? So your personality is changing slightly, is it not? Now, deep in Samadhi, now there is a philosophy. Moksha is getting away from the cycle of birth and death, is it not? Now, why the hell we come into this world? Because in our mind, when I was talking about law of karma, all those sanskars from so many past lives, there is a particular kind of sanskar. All these details I cannot cover in 5 minutes. There is a particular kind of sanskar that is called klesh. It's just a technical term at this point. Klesh is our common term for dukh and pain and unwanted stuff. But this is not. Here, klesh is some deposits in my mind, which I have only gathered in my life. Is it not? Now, because there is a klesh, or you can say it is law of karma leisure. So there is a balance in that leisure that is called karmashaya. Because there is a balance in that leisure, I have to come in this world to taste the rewards of that action, is it not? Because the balance sheet must become zero for me to become entitled for moksha. I hope you are with me. So there is a law of karma ledger, like in your bank accounts, there is a ledger book. So he is also maintaining a ledger book, and my passbook is nothing but my own mind, where the whole account is given, the deposits, and these are, I have only earned them. And then if I burn it out so that that balance is zero, then my death will become gateway to moksha. Otherwise, that death is gate to again next birth, is it? So, to make a short story, the quickest, fastest way to get moksha, and not this is fastest, this is the only way to get moksha. Don't be confused. You may hear all kinds of things from so many people, all kinds of books. You may read many things, but this is the only way. That deposits must be brought to zero, and there is only one way to make that deposits zero. Otherwise, they are called as seeds. Seeds. Why are they called seeds? I will explain sometime later, probably. And the only way the seeds become important if you burn them. The burnt seed cannot give again plants and fruits, is it not? So the burnt seed, Patanjali's technical term is Dagdha Bijvat. Dagdha is burned out, Bij is the seed, that is called as Nirbij Samadhi. So that Samadhi at its very, very advanced stage is called as Nirbij Samadhi, when those klesh, which are seeds, they have been burnt out. And then, of course, this is a process. And as I said, even a common practitioner will realize as you are practicing meditation, slightly getting, I will say you are in intermediate category or advanced category from the worldly standards, you will notice, or people around you will notice, your personality is changing, is it not? And personality is nothing but the content in my mind. So that content is getting, and that's what we mean by Vishwani Duitani Payasva. When we say Om Vishwani Dev Savita Duyatani Payasva, what do we mean? All the unwanted stuff from my mind, may they go away. So through meditation, they go away, they are washed out, burnt out, and when they are fully burnt out, I become eligible for moksha. This is not the fastest way, this is the only way to get moksha. But of course, you will hear many things like good karma can bring moksha. No, good karma don't bring moksha. Good karma makes your mind slightly cleaner, your tendencies become better, so that you will find it better, easier to sit in meditation. If you have a lot of crooked mind, you have a lot of temptations, then it's not easy to sit for meditation, is it not? So it is helpful. You have to be a good human being. But if you are just a good human being, do gooders, that is not the only thing that brings moksha. Good karma will bring good rewards. So there has to be again next life to test those rewards, is it not? So that's what the answer to this is. I think it was wonderful session, and I am not sure if I can save this chat, but I will learn. I'll copy it. So next time, probably Monday, because Monday should be repeated Monday. If I take up this question, say Friday morning, this questioner may not be there, is it not? So I have put two timings because we are looking from global point of view. There are different time zones. So if next Monday evening, I will begin with I have a now bank of data. So I will start from these questions. And thank you all. Have a good time. It has been a good opportunity. Namaste.
Namaste.